Welcome children. Today once again we are going to revise the remaining portion of chapter number 6, which is tissues. In our previous session also we discussed about the revision of tissue chapter. Children, soon you will be having your semester exams, and in that semester exam from biology chapter number 5 and chapter number 6 is going to be included. So chapter number 5 is already being done by you, and the revision is also taken at the time of periodic test. So if you want to revise that chapter, you just go through that videos. And for chapter number 6, that is tissue, we are taking the sessions now. So let us begin with the tissues only. In our previous session, we already discussed a bit about tissues, in which we discussed about the simple plant tissues. Now we are going to proceed with the protective tissues. Children, protective tissue, as its name suggests, it protects the plant body by forming an outer layer. And you know that outer layer is made up of epidermis. So one kind of protective tissue is epidermis simple tissue. Epidermis tissue covers the entire body of plant, and they protect plant from injury, germs, water loss, etc. The cells of epidermal tissue forms a continuous layer without intercellular spaces. So in this diagram you can see that the outer layer is epidermis, and here you can also see that this particular part is upper epidermis and lower epidermis. So it is epidermal part which is shown here, and epidermis is a outer protective covering. The stomata are small openings on epidermal layer of leaf and soft part of stem to facilitate the gaseous exchange and transpiration in plants. Children, you have already studied about this transpiration in your previous classes. Each stomata is composed of two guard cells which regulate the opening and closing of stomata. In desert plants, epidermis and cutin, a waterproof waxy substance which is secreted by epidermis, are thicker to reduce the loss of water due to transpiration. In your previous classes, you have already studied about adaptation in xerophytic plant or adaptation in plants which grow in desert areas, in scarcity of plant. There we have already studied all these things, that epidermis becomes very thick in that plant so that it can prevent the loss of water from it. So here in this slide you can see the structure of stomata. One of the diagram is showing a closed stomata and other one open stomata. Now the second protective tissue is cork. Cork simple tissue. These types of tissue consist dead cells. Children, it is very important to note here that these cork cells are dead cells with no intercellular spaces in them. They form the outer layer of old tree trunk. You must have seen that in older trees the trunk becomes very heavy. The girth of the trunk is so much. So it's only because of cork. Cork cells have a chemical called suberin in their walls that makes them impervious to gases and water. Cork tissues protect the plant from injuries, germs and water loss. So basically cork tissues are dead tissues of a plant. Now let us start with the complex tissues. The group of different type of cells performing a common task together are named as complex tissues. These complex tissues are of two types, xylem and phloem. Xylem, this is the tissue that transports water and nutrients from root to upper parts of the plant. It is composed of four types of cells, which are tracheids, vessels, xylem parenchyma and xylem fibers, which are shown here as sclerenchyma also. So here in this slide you can clearly see the picture of tracheids, vessel and xylem parenchyma. Xylem fibers are actually the fibers, dead fibers, which are basically made up of sclerenchymatous tissues. So let us explain these again. Tracheids are long elongated cells with tapered ending. Tracheid cells are dead. Tracheid transport water through pits. Vessel is a pipe-like structure. Vessel are dead and have lignified thick cell wall. Upper and lower portion of the cell wall is absent. Parenchymas are living cells. It is very important to note here that parenchyma are living cells. And the main function of parenchyma is what? To store food and nutrients in it. Again, then sclerenchyma or your xylem fibers. These are dead cells. They provide mechanical support to the plant. So children, now let us begin with the phloem. Phloem is the tissue that transports food from site of photosynthesis to different parts of the plant. It is composed of 4 types of cells. These cells are sieve cell, companion cell, phloem parenchyma and phloem fibers. These phloem fibers are also known as blast fibers. All these types of cells are live except the phloem fiber. Now we will explain about all these 4 types of cells. Sieve cells are elongated and have thin cell walls. They have cytoplasm but no nucleus and other organelles are present in them. These cells are responsible for transportation of food and nutrients. Companion cells have cytoplasm, nucleus and other organelles. They perform the task required for sieve cells for living. Phloem parenchyma stores food. Phloem fibers have thick cell wall and they provide mechanical support to the plant. Now let us begin with animal tissues. Here is a flow chart of animal tissues where you can see that animal tissues can be divided into 2 major groups and 4 basic groups. These are epithelial tissues, muscular tissues, connective tissues and nervous tissues. And epithelial tissues can again be divided into squamous, cuboidal, columnar, ciliated and glandular. So let us begin with this only, animal tissues. So epithelial tissue are the protective tissues of human body and they cover many organs and cavities that are present inside our body. Now the question arises, where are the epithelial tissue found in our body? As I told you earlier also, that these are present in the lining of blood vessels, lining of the mouth, kidney tubules, skin and lung alveoli, etc. So this is a basic answer of this question and it is very important. Now structure and function of epithelial tissues. The main function of epithelial tissue is to act as a barrier and separate different organs and the systems from each other. There is no space between the cells of epithelial tissues. The cells are permeable. This makes it possible for them to exchange materials between different parts of the body and also between the body and the external environment which is present around that body. So the epithelial tissues remain separated from the tissue which are present beneath it with the help of one basement membrane. And in this slide you can see the different types of epithelial tissues. Now we will discuss about connective tissue. Children, as its name suggests, that this type of tissue connects the various body parts. And the structure and function of this type of connective tissue is of various types. So let us begin with the types. Focus on this slide. Here you will see that there are so many types of connective tissues. Loose connective tissue which is present under the skin, adipose tissues, blood tissues, bones, cartilages and fibrous connective tissues. These are different types of connective tissues which are present in our body, and these tissues connect the various parts of the body in our system. So let us begin with blood first. The main function of the blood is to transport the gases, food, waste material and hormones in the body. Therefore, the blood has a fluid matrix present in it which is called as plasma. The plasma contains red blood corpuscles or red blood cells which are also known as RBCs, and the white blood cells and blood platelets. The RBCs have hemoglobin pigment present in them, and this hemoglobin pigment carries the oxygen to the tissue. White blood cells fight against diseases, and platelets are involved in clotting of blood when there is any injury or cut in the body part. The plasma also contains proteins and hormones into it. Now we will discuss about bones. Bones form a framework of body over which the muscles are wrapped together, and this makes a structure of our body. This gives a shape to our body. The bone tissue is strong and inflexible in nature, means the bones cannot be compressed. because they are made up of very dense tissues. So bones are very rigid and solid structure. Therefore, the bone cells are present in a rigid matrix which is formed from calcium and phosphorus. Cartilage is present over the joints of the bone and provides them with a smooth structure. For example, in the nose tip and ear pinna, trachea and larynx, these cartilages are present. As I told you earlier that cartilages are not as hard as bone, these are flexible structures. So you can experience it by pressing your nose or by moving your ear. See here, cartilage is present, you can press it, you can fold it in any way. Same way with your nose also, you can move it, but you cannot move your bone of your hand. So this is a difference between cartilage and bone. They contain solid matrix made of protein and sugar. They have homogeneous matrix. It provides a support and flexibility to various parts of the body. Now ligaments are also one of the type of connective tissues. A ligament connects two bones together. It has an elasticity which facilitates the connection. The cells of the ligament have a little matrix present in them, and the tendons are also present. These tendons are very, very important, children. The tendon tissue are responsible for connection between bones and muscles. We are able to move our bones and muscle. The movement in our body is only with the help of these tendons. So when bones and muscles bind together, they are bound with the help of tendons. So the tendon tissues are responsible for connecting bones and muscles together. They have limited flexibility but very great strength is in them. Now we will discuss about another type of connective tissue which is known as areolar tissue. This tissue acts as a filter in between the spaces which are present inside the organs of our body. It helps in repairing other tissues as well. It is found in the skin and bone marrow. Now there is one more type of connective tissue which is known as adipose tissue. You all are very much familiar with this adipose tissue. Fat is stored in our body in the form of adipose tissues. They are found below the skin and between the organs of the body. And this adipose tissue provides a cushioning to various body parts and various organs which are present in our body.